Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Attacking 2 podcast. I'm your host Jimmy Funnell, and I'm joined as always by my fellow co-host Laurenz Vescoli. Hi Laurenz.
Hi, how do? How are you? How are the viewers doing? How are the listeners doing? Hope Terry's all right as well. And I'm excited to talk some Chelsea.
Next one in the fray here. I mean, Terry Sazio, the Mr. Beardface, Mr. Beardy Beardface, writer for the Chelsea Echo, senior writer. Terry, returning guest. Great to have you back on, mate.
Thank you for having me back on, mate. It's a privilege to be back.
Unfortunately, we can't see your lovely face, but we'll make sure to cover the blank space up with a very, very nice picture of Terry. As always, we'll start by saying this. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Attacking 2 podcast. Please do follow us on Twitter. The handles will be in the description below. Of course, also follow Terry for all the latest Chelsea news. He's very active, doing a stellar job, mate. Very worth the follow. Also, his handle will be in the description below. But let's get right into this. We've got a lot to talk about. Last night was Frank Lampard's first game as a Chelsea manager. Rejoice. It was definitely something. I mean... was a good first half, a bit rusty. His second half dropped a bit. But Terry, what were your first thoughts after full time yesterday?
I think that the best way to describe yesterday was it was definitely a pre-season game, if you could ever imagine a pre-season game. The first half was... It was a weird game, actually, because the game was almost like in 4 quarters, not 2 halves for me. It felt like an American sport game instead of actually football. It felt like the first halves of each half were good, but the second halves of each half were very average or very sloppy. But I think that you have to take that into consideration, that obviously we're only, 6-7 days into pre-season. We're playing against a team, regardless of how good they are or what their level is, regardless. They've been playing football for near enough 6 months straight and everything, like professionally through their season. And you could tell that there was some very obvious signs of rustiness, obvious signs of lack of fitness. And so it was very much your atypical pre-season game for me.
Yeah, I mean, you say rustiness. I mean, there was a lot of rust on Danny Drinkwater. I hadn't played for over a year. I think that one shouldn't forget. Quite a few others. Lewis Baker hasn't been playing a lot. Izzy Brown, I think he only played twice for Leeds United last year. Though I think Lewis Baker didn't have a bad second half of the season at Reading. But still, I haven't been playing a lot recently. Come in the fray. Laurenz, I mean, first half was quite a bit better than the second half, if you ask me. Some great individual performances. I mean, take us through the first goal. Well, first goal. There was only one goal from Chelsea's side, but I mean, well taken, right?
It was a good goal. I mean, generally, I really agree with what Terry said. The first half of each half was pretty decent, and then it just felt like we got tired. I mean, Lampard said it after the game that they had a pretty tough training session already on the morning of the match day. So, and considering we're already not particularly fit because we only started pre-season a couple of days before that, and then also having a training session that morning, a tough training session as well, apparently, it kind of makes sense that after 20 minutes or so, you kind of start to tire out a little bit, and the team that is in full fitness playing their regular season, is doing a little bit better. I guess it kind of made sense. But the goal was decent. I mean, Kennedy really wasn't attacked at all. They just let him do whatever he wanted and went for the shot. I still think he hit it straight against Batshuayi's arm, and that goal should never have stood. because the way Batshuayi's arm just bounced away, surely it has to have hit his arm. But none of the replay cameras actually picked that up properly because camera work wasn't exactly great at that round.
Pre-season.
But once you disregard that, if the ref doesn't see it, the ref doesn't see it. Not going to happen in the league with VAR next season, but it is what it is. And then he took it well. He brushed the defender off really well, who did go in for the challenge, and he just wasn't really phased at all. Batshuayi wasn't. He just smashed it into the roof of the net. And it was a good finish. You can't really complain about that at all. And especially compared to the second half, what happened up front then, it was quite a big difference. I'm not going to start slating, Ugbo because he's awful or whatever, but he's not Batshuayi.
Yeah, I mean, he showed quite, I get what you're saying with the arm. Could be given or not with VAR, whatever, but he showed good physicality and there's good strength. And I think that's what we need from a striker. And that's often been the point of critique when I'm talking about Batshuayi for Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
Showed some good strength. Ugbo, he's a young lad. How old is he? 20, 21, something like that?
20,
yeah.
That's older than Hudson-Odoi. That young, I mean.
True, but Hudson-Odoi isn't. I don't think he'd have the strength to lead the line either. But on the wing, you can use your pace, and I don't know. We weren't able to play that way that he could get in behind. I mean, they was defending pretty deep. Yeah. It's just, of course they were. Understandable. Why wouldn't they? But he had no service. I mean, did one cross come in? I don't think there was one cross.
They played very much through the middle of the park the second half.
Yeah.
Which is a bit odd because at Derby, Lampard really did like to play, use the wings. And that really wasn't the case in the second half, which was a bit odd. But I do think it had a lot to do with who was on the wings and that Izzy Brown and Lucas Piazza really weren't finding their feet in the game either. I think the plan was to use the wings a little bit more than we actually did. But like you both said, we really didn't.
I mean, did you even notice Lucas Piazza? I mean, I think he's one of the longest serving players in our squad right now, and he was anonymous. I don't even want to say it was bad because I just simply didn't see him play. I maybe had 5 touches that I remember at all, and he wasn't too good. So I don't think he would be. I know it's only one game and it's Bohemians, but still, I don't know. It doesn't seem very enticing to think about him providing cover on the wings. He won't.
I think the problem is unfortunately, I know he done it in good form, good consideration, but he made a rod for his own back by saying that he was giving everyone a clean slate, and by doing that, he has to play everyone then, because if he says by giving everyone a clean slate, a fresh start and chance and everything, and he doesn't play certain players, then he's going to get called out for that immediately. So he had to play certain players, and granted, I don't want to really be critical towards the players because obviously it's only one game of pre-season, but there are a few players last night that you could tell that Chelsea's not for them, to be put in a polite way, sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we always have to remember that Bohemians aren't actually a professional football team. I'm not sure whether it's all of them, or most of them, but I think all of their players have other jobs. They're footballers. So it's as much as we can talk about being early into pre-season and whatever, and only 3 days in, I mean, they don't even do this professionally. So
if I remember correctly, the only one that's professional is the goalie, and he actually plays for Republic of Ireland. So that is it. Yeah.
Well, there you go then. And it's not like we tested a goalkeeper much, quite frankly. So
I mean, they had trialists yesterday. That's the great thing. They actually used trialists against us. That is, sorry. And he was actually the best guy.
Yeah, and on the Chelsea app, it said trialist B scored. Loved it.
Oh my God, the guy who scored the goal was a trialist as well, wasn't
he? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Fair play to him though. Fair play. What was his name? Murray. Can't remember the first name.
I can't remember. But on my thing, it said a trialist B, and I was like, God, that's going to go down wrong. Social media tonight.
No, I checked Bohemians Twitter to find out his name because it's something Murray. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. That makes it much better that Lampard's out trending. Sorry, it's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But what else do you expect from our fan base? Quite frankly. But yeah, I mean, shall we stick with the first half for a bit and talk about a few players from that before going to the second half? Because for me personally, I thought especially Ethan Ampadu and Michy Batshuayi were the ones that stood out by far the most. Yeah. There were also a couple that really did the opposite, I guess. But I think the positives should be highlighted first. So Ampadu, whenever he plays, whether it's a preseason game, whether it's a competitive game or whatever, he just plays well, with maybe the exception of when we played VD away. He wasn't that great then. But other than that, he always plays well whenever he plays. He's never seems nervous. Like, he never seems phased by anything. He just wants the ball. He wants to play it. He wants to go into the tackle. He's not scared of anybody or anything. And it's just really refreshing to see. And, Jimmy, you and I spoke about it, and we spoke about midfielders and stuff. And quite frankly, yes, I know it was only Bohemians, but he played next to Danny Drinkwater, and I would much rather have, after that game anyway, I would much rather have Ethan Ampadu as one of the midfield options than I would have Danny Drinkwater as one of the midfield options for the season. Especially because Ethan Ampadu can also play at centre-back if it is ever needed.
Yeah.
So, it just seems...
I still feel the problem with Ampadu is what is going to be his position going forward. I think that's the major problem for him, because I've said it in the past, like, he reminds me of a young Marcel Desailly that can play centre-back or centre midfield. But the problem for him at the moment is Desailly was doing that in the latter stages of his career, whereas Ampadu's doing it at the moment in the first period of his career. And I know for Wales, he's literally just a defensive midfielder, plays in that slot in a two-man midfield behind the attacking players. At Chelsea, the problem with for Ampadu is he will play either centre-back or centre midfield when there is a spot available, not because he should be in that spot, so to speak. So they need to start finding, in my opinion, versatility is good, but after a while it does stunt your potential in either one of the positions. So I think they need to start going, what's best for him, so to speak.
I agree.
I think
they should focus on midfield for me personally, because I always think he's a bit too short to be a starting centre back for a club like ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think if they work on that longer term, I think he could be a good enough midfielder. I don't know. I mean, we will speak about Bakayoko later on, but maybe instead of Bakayoko being that second defensive option after Kante, maybe Ampadu could be the second defensive option. And he's really young. He's 18, 19, isn't he? So, I think but I agree with what Terry said. They should focus on one of them, but preferably for me, midfield.
Lampard wanted him last season at Derby, so you'd expect him to have some kind of an idea where he actually wants to play him, and that will be one of the questions he has to answer, or the problems he has to solve. Where does he play? I thought Ampadu, there were people saying, he wasn't passing right. He had some passes that were open and he didn't do it. I thought he had some great passes in him, over the top, cross field. He was brilliant. I mean, he's 20 years old, or 19 even only.
He's only 18, actually.
He's only 18, Jesus. So, 18, come on. I mean, cut him a slack. And I mean, I agree with you to a certain degree, Laurenz, regarding, he is kind of short for a centre-back. On the other hand, I always loved this example because he was one of my favourite centre-backs at that time. It's Fabio Cannavaro. He was only 170 or something, and he was a brilliant centre-back. I mean, I think you just need to have the positioning and the awareness to make up for that, and you have a good defensive partner. If you have that, and in midfield you have the height, it can work. Cannavaro is a World Cup winner. He won loads of Scudettos.
But he had Maldini and Nesta next to him as well, to be fair, for the most
part. Sure. But, if we have a good enough defence, what won't work is playing Ampadu and Cesar Spilicueta in centre-back. That won't work. Pair him with Kurt Zouma or Antonio Rudiger, and I think that would work quite well. Also wouldn't work with David Luiz because he's too rash. But, I think, although it would be really great having two hairdos in defence. I'd see him actually as both. I don't think it's a bad thing that he's been playing both, because he's just bossed it every time he's played there.
Sure.
But it's still not like Hudson-Odoi that he's bossed himself into the starting 11.
Yeah, he was injured a lot, mate.
Of course, he was injured a lot. But would you pick him over any of the current starting players in either CDM or centre back? I wouldn't pick him over them.
He's 18. He's 18 years old, and you can play cup games.
There's no criticism for him. It's just saying not hudson-odoi.
I think that's a fair point because you can clearly see the talent in Ampadu. He's going to be elite tier player in the future. But as Laurenz said, there's more more players in the positions for centre back and centre midfield than there was for Hudson-Odoi when he broke through in the wingers. Because let's be honest, the competition at wingers is not as good as the competition in midfield and defence. So
especially now.
Yeah. We've been very inactive in regard to the wings. Buying their Pulisic is the first real acquisition that we've had for quite a while. Because before that, Pedro, but that's quite a few years ago now. That's nearly 3 years. No, 4 years. It was 2015.
Pedro was 2015. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 4 years. Then you had William before that, Hazard before that. There haven't been that many wingers that we brought in, at least. So
since we won the Champions League, it's been William, Schürrle, and Pedro.
That's true.
And Hazard.
Hazard. Yeah, sorry.
He'll get more chances there. We've got loads of centre backs, we've got loads of midfielders, and also ones that are talented from the loan army. So of course that will be trickier. But he's only 18. I think in 2 years, David Luiz will be gone. You never know what happens with Antonio Rudiger. Midfield,
I think with Ampadu, in my personal opinion, I think if Lampard hasn't found a way to give Ampadu a sense of assurance that he will be not saying integral this season, but a sense of that you will be an important player, put him on loan. Immediately put him on loan.
I agree.
He needs to be playing there for me personally. He's got the talent there. Just put him on a team that suits his style of play or suits the way Chelsea play and let him thrive. We've done it for Christensen a couple of years back. Which I'm going back, send him somewhere. He's not the sort of player that's going to shy away of going and play for certain teams.
Just don't give him a dead loan. Just don't do it. Lewis Baker do him. Just don't ruin their careers with stupid loans. Either give him a proper loan or keep him because, I think he can get up to like 10 appearances, not 10 starts, but 10 appearances through a season. And that is not awful because, yes, it's great to play games, but it's also good to play with good players in training every day rather than playing, for bloody Bristol or whatever. That's what I mean with Lewis Baker. It's like these teams just don't need a Lewis Baker. His abilities just don't suit these lower English divisions at all. That's why he's kind of been wasting away. But before we go into Michy Batshuayi, because obviously we have to speak about him, I think. Because we spoke about young centre-backs, obviously Mark Guay played last night as well. And there was, I saw a couple of people that were like really raving about him. I was like, he was decent, but I really struggled yesterday to either slate or highlight any of the defenders, even though
I think he just had a content game, in my opinion, content first half. He didn't do nothing spectacular, but he didn't put a foot wrong. I thought he just put in like a solid performance. That's it, in my opinion.
You say it's enough to go, to go to Japan with the rest of the squad, or?
Personally, I don't think so because we've got so many people that can play centre back.
Yeah,
I'd say it'd be better for him to go on loan or get some more time in the development teams. Personally,
even if Ampadu goes on loan, he has to come with us to Japan because he needs to be there. If you ask me, he has to play on with the team. I mean, for example, one of the other names you just mentioned, Gui, who I thought he wasn't bad. He didn't have that much to do, but Dujon Sterling, he was lauded quite a bit a few years ago, and I thought, you never know, he might come through. Was it Conte that gave him his debut? I'm not sure.
Yeah, he played in the FA Cup.
But he wasn't good.
He looked very rusty.
Yeah, he looked out of depth.
Yeah.
I've got to tell you, he always running, losing the ball, losing the ball. Even Zappacosta did better. I mean, I don't think there's a point really keeping. If Zappacosta's going to stay at Chelsea next season, and we want Reece James, of course, to stay.
Yeah.
There's no point. Loan him out or sell him. Makes no sense.
Again, like I just said, give him a decent number because last year the poor guy had to be in League One, which I'm like, Dujon Sterling literally played for the Chelsea first team the season before, and then we loan him out to League One. I'm like, what are we doing?
I think that's a general issue of the loan army in itself. I mean, apart from say last season, up until last season, the loan army structure has been pretty poor in terms of where players have gone. Besides the odd one or two players, it's just been a case of, we own you, can we just get rid of you for a year? Until last season, it wasn't really done well until the likes of Reece James was getting proper game time and such. And I think hopefully if they continue with Lone Army sort of things, they'll do it in a better way. So I think some of the players were just highlighted issues with that, in my opinion.
Well, we've got a bit more about structure now, I hope, with Peter Cech, who might have something to say there.
Who I mentioned should get the director of football the last time I was on this show.
That is true. Shit, that is actually really true. Laurenz, I guess you didn't listen to that back then, but the thing is, when Terry was last time on the show, we were talking about, it could be Michael Ballaker. Who was the second choice? I can't remember anymore. Was it a Campus?
Jorge Campos, Michy, them sort of things.
Then at the end, it was, what about Peter Cech? He hadn't been mentioned at all. And then now it comes Terry the Oracle.
This week's lottery numbers are what? No, exactly.
Are we going to win the Champions League, mate?
No.
Well, I'm going to put a bet on that.
I think another decent player from the first half, very much to what I said, where he done well first part of it and faded away, was Conor Gallagher. I think he started off well, but say the last 20 minutes of the first half, he became pretty much anonymous, in my opinion. And he just, I don't know what it is. I think he's another sort of player where he doesn't know what sort of position he really wants to be in midfield. He's not really he doesn't really have an outstanding trait in a certain position right now. I still think he needs to find a way to say what sort of player midfielder you're going to be in the future, in my opinion.
It felt like an 8 to me yesterday, like when we watched him play, because he was so clean on the ball. Never seemed phased, never stressed about it, touched it, controlled it, looked up and found his pass, and really did find his pass for the most part. But then for the attacking position, there was the one moment where Batshuayi laid it off for him and he came storming onto it and just put it over the bar, which fair play, good run, good positioning. But other than that, he felt like there was a bit not enough of that attacking, kind of sense to play as a 10. So probably is another player that is more of an 8 than he is of a 10. But like Terry said, he was good. Unless you disagree, Jimmy, but I don't think he will.
No, I do. I think he would actually be well served to play a bit deeper, because he played as that 10 role, and I don't think that suits him as much. He hasn't got the pace to really burst right into that penalty box, I think he's one of those that needs a second on the ball. Like Cesc Fabregas, he gave him a second. Guy was phenomenal. If you don't have that, and they were pressing quite a bit yesterday, he might struggle a bit. So maybe if he's set up deeper, that would have helped him. But we've got a lot of choices at the number 10 point position next season anyway. So
I mean, let's be honest, he's not going to be part of the first team squad next season. Whether he goes out on loan or whether he remains part of the development squad that he wants or whatever, But he's
got the choice.
Yeah.
He's one of those that's got the time. Well, for example, Lucas Piazon, Dujon Sterling. Well, not necessarily Sterling, but there are a few others where you say Izzy Brown, or Lewis Baker. Something has to happen. Lewis Baker's 24 years old.
Piazzon's nearly 26. That says
what, really?
You're shitting me. He's 26. Oh my god, yeah. He's been 6 years at Chelsea, isn't he, or something?
He made his debut for Chelsea in 2012.
And he was 20 or something like that. Yeah, okay. Blimey.
He's just another Oscar, isn't he? Just a bit worse. But you never know. Are you a winger? Yeah. Are you a cam? Are you a centre mid? No, you're just none of those things. You're just a wannabe Brazilian. Just go away.
No, but not just a bit worse. I mean, I had my issues with Oscar, but Piazza is nowhere near Oscar's level.
No, but it's the same kind of like, no one really knows what you are, and you don't seem to know what you are, but because you're Brazilian, and then you have skills, but then you're really slow. Yeah. But then you're also really weak. But then you can shoot really well, and then you can tackle really well, which makes no sense.
Oh my god! If we're gonna be done with that first half, I just immediately have to say, second half, holy shit! Billy Gilmour put in some tackles where I thought even the big boys, they didn't have the balls to do them. But that guy was I'm absolutely,
Scottish.
starstruck. And
Billy
you what?
Gilmore, aka the Scottish Andreas Iniesta. I personally believe, I mean, if people want to check my Twitter over the last few days, I am absolutely raving about the kid. I've been raving about him since day one, since Chelsea got him from Rangers. I genuinely believe he is the jewel in the academy's crown, and he has the absolute potential to make it at Chelsea and be almost the face of Chelsea in the future. He has absolutely everything for me as a midfielder.
That's the problem, that we all seem to have these crowns, these jewels in the crowns in the same position now. Loftus-Cheek,
Yeah.
Mason Mount, Billy Gilmore, they're all pretty much the same position.
But Laurenz, Lampard did say he can actually imagine Loftus-Cheek starting a bit, further back, more in central midfield, that double pivot.
Yeah,
What
I
happens
think
with Jorginho, don't know, but
Yeah, I mean that is some. Before we go into the second half, because there was a
Yeah.
lot of tactical, something tactical that I do want to mention formation-wise. Because obviously we want to talk about Batshuayi, like we said.
Yeah.
He scored that goal earlier, and Terry, yourself, do you think? I mean, of course, it was only Bohemians, but
Yeah.
compared to what Agbo showed, and I think he did well. He had a decent first touch, better than what I remember from Batshuayi, quite frankly. He held it up all right. He looked really sharp, considering we're only 4 or 5 days into training. Like, off the mark, he looked really sharp. So it was never going to be the quickest, but he looked sharp, he looked strong.
Mm.
Of course, we haven't seen Tammy Abraham play just yet, but
I think
was
with
kind of like,
Batshuayi, he looks like he wants to fight for the shirt this season. I think when he was here initially, it was almost like he was content being a player of the squad and everything. Whereas he now knows, especially with the situation we have with the transfer ban and the fact that we haven't got a striker where any of us can really go, he is our main guy. You feel confident enough to say he is our main guy. I think he knows now this is almost like the ultimate opportunity for him to go, I'm going to take this position, and then it's a case of see how much I can do with this position until next season when it's almost inevitable we are going to go and try and buy a 70, 80 million pound striker if they're available in the market. So you can tell he's got the bit between his teeth, and I just hope he can do that throughout the season. I think personally, I would say he's above Abraham in the pecking order just at the moment, just because of his experience, and because obviously he was back earlier than Abraham and Giroud. I think he most probably will start against Man United on the opening weekend as well, just because of he's been back earlier. But obviously, there's 6 more games to go, and we're going to see Giroud and Abraham no doubt throughout the other 6 games. So,
agreed.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see who he then starts on Saturday when we play again. Was it
St Patrick's?
St Patrick's, right? St
Yeah.
Patrick's Athletic. Be interesting to see who he starts there. If Batshuayi starts again, I think you're absolutely right.
Probably going to be half for Abraham and other half for Giroud, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I sense the players that came, like the 13, the pool of 13 that came a few days after, they came on Monday. I think they will play more against St Patrick's Athletic. And then come Japan, when everyone's going to Japan, I think that's when you start to see every player get 45, 60 minutes. I think that would be the consensus.
Well, that's actually a good question, yeah. Well, actually, we'll get to that regarding who will actually then make it to Japan. But yeah, so just to say regarding Michy Batshuayi, I think one thing that one can't take away from him is that he's just a brilliant finisher. I'm not sure if he, there have been the people on Twitter saying, yeah, he's great with his head and hold-up play is good. His hold-up play wasn't bad yesterday, but Bohemians, right? So that has to be seen whether he can actually do that against the likes of Barcelona or whoever he might still play against. Even Salzburg, Salzburg isn't a bad side. If he were to start there, can he hold it up? But his link-up play, I think that's something that you criticised yesterday, Lawrence. I'm not sure if you did, if I read that somewhere else.
Yeah,
his passing's not on point. Yeah, I think that's something where if it works in Lampard's system, brilliant. Even if that is one of his vices. Vice is too strong, but weaknesses.
Although I did think it
Yeah.
improved as the half went on. Like, he did struggle first few minutes, but then he got a few better passes on. Like when he, like I said earlier, when he cut it back for Conor Gallagher, that was a decent enough pass, decent enough vision to know where to put it, and he put it where he wanted to put it. But not everyone is Giroud. And well, I say that Giroud can only lay it off. Giroud is not like the guy that plays the through ball for the strikers.
Agenda.
Yeah, no, come on. Giroud is never going to play a Fabregas pass. He can just lay it off. And but Batshuayi's passing isn't exactly great. Although I'm not sure that kind of passing that I criticised then, Tammy Abraham or Olivier Giroud are particularly, better at. So, really, what difference does it make there?
Yeah.
All three strikers we have are very different in how they play. So that's got to be something that Lampard's got to take into consideration for every season, in my opinion.
Good as well. If we keep all of them, different options against different opponents, I guess.
Yeah. Be the first time that we have three strikers. I mean, we spoke about this, I think 2 weeks ago. It'll be the first time we have three strikers since 2014-15, where we had Costa, Remy, and
Drogba.
Yeah. So I'm all for that. I think Tammy's at a point in his career where he can stay at the club even if he's not playing game in, game out. And Michy Batshuayi, I don't want to say, okay, now I want him to start next season, because the other episode I said I want Tammy to gradually start. That'd be too reactionary, but
I think it's
making a good case.
I think it's because it's like I can understand where you're coming from. It's the fact that none of the strikers, even though they're all decent in their own rights, none of them really scream out and say he has to start for you per se. I think I can understand where you're coming from.
It's just a difficult decision. Like, you're gonna flip flop a little bit here and there between Tammy and Batshuayi, especially. I mean, I don't particularly like Giroud. For you, it might even be flip flopping between all of them three, depending on who just plays well. For me, it's just Giroud be the backup, and then whoever just is in better form and just does better, proves himself more up until then. Between Batshuayi and Abraham should be the main starter for most of the games.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a case of he'll pick a striker on a situation basis. He'll pick a striker for a certain team. He'll pick a striker for a certain competition. I think it'll literally. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like that. And then once, like Laurenz said, once form comes into it, goal streak comes into it, then you'll start to see who has the upper hand, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be also interesting to see how Batshuayi then. How he does when Christian Pulisic comes in, because they have linked up quite well at Dortmund in the past. You never know. It's thoroughly possible that him coming in, that gives Batshuayi more of a link up where he knows, I know how he plays, I'll go there. Because as said, he can finish, he knows where to be. That's something very refreshing in a striker for Chelsea. I know where I have to stand, because how often has it happened over the last couple of years, even when Costa was still here, that crosses come into dangerous areas and no one's just hesitant to get on the end of them, go through it, go into that box, because we've also been missing that from midfield. Loftus-Cheek is able to do that. He did it at the end of the season. If he can do that again, brilliant. And Batshuayi, I think, is one of those that can do that. So I think he can start.
I think that might be a little advantage, like you said, for Batshuayi, because obviously, as they were known at Dortmund, Batman and Captain America, they did link up very well. And Pulisic is a sort of winger that we haven't had for a long time. All the wingers we tend to have had in the last couple of years tend to just cut inside and try and create things, whereas Pulisic is very comfortable at stretching the play and taking players on down the wing and everything, as he showed in the Gold Cup, regardless of who he's playing against. He showed he can do it. So I think that won't be an issue there, and it'll be nice to see link up play towards players that know each other. I know we tried to hopefully see it last season with Jorginho and Higuain, because obviously of their past and Napoli, but this will be a much better example in my opinion, and I think that will be a little bit of a nod towards Batshuayi for me.
Yeah. And then I guess coming on to the second half, of course, we did make 11 changes. Should we just again pick out a few that stood out positively and a few that stood out negatively? Because we can't talk through everyone. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be a bit stretched for time, I guess. So for me personally, who stood out positively was, you mentioned him already, Billy Gilmer. Baker was a weird one. Had some really good passes and then some really dodgy moments.
Who did you say? Sorry,
Lewis Baker.
Yeah.
Baker. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And also Ian Martin, I have to mention. He was
I
impressive.
I was very impressed with Ian Maatsen. He looked very solid, and it almost looked like he's been there and done it for a few years. He looked very composed and very calm on the ball.
Like he was with the under 17s this summer, and he's playing like that. I play it.
I mean, and
He's a champion. He's a World Cup champion, actually. I have to say.
And that's hopefully a good thing for us, because we sort of have issues at the moment in the left back position, because obviously Emerson's hopefully going to try and get back to his Roma form, and obviously we know what it is with Alonso and such, and also with Jada Silva going. But hopefully now that Castillo has now decided to stay and he's a promising talent, and that Maatsen's saying, and they both play for the Dutch national team together on the left hand side. Hopefully there's a sign of them two in the future linking up and everything. So yeah. I was very impressed with like I said, with Maatsen. It's not like he was amazing, but he didn't look like he put a foot wrong for me. He looked very composed, and that was very reassuring to see personally.
Yeah. I mean, he was one of the performers or the surprise brackets, because I'll be honest, I hadn't seen really anything of Maatsen before. Only heard. I think a lot of us hadn't, to be fair, because he only came I think last summer, so we haven't really had that much time to hear about him.
I've only seen him through the UEFA Loop Youth League. That's the only time I've actually seen any real footage of him. But he looked decent at the Youth League level, and as you say, because he's done well at international level already for a 17-year-old. So, and he's got good versatility. I mean, he can play left back, he can play left wing, and he can also play as a left-footed centre-back as well. So he's definitely got some versatility to him. So hopefully it's a good sign for him in the future.
The question is now, I don't know what you two think about this, but why was Juan? I mean, maybe there's an official reason already. I just didn't hear about it. But why has Juan Castillo been staying at home while Maatsen's been taking with them?
Not sure. I was asked, because I was doing a lot of the reporting last night on the team and everything. Because I have quite a few people that like to ask me questions about youth kids, like all the youth, so and I'm happy to discuss them. And they were asking me, "Where's Castillo? Where's Castillo?" And the truth is I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe it's something completely innocuous and something simple at Chelsea that they're sorting stuff out. I don't think it's a case of he's injured. I think mostly it's just some sort of something very mundane that they're just sorting out for him personally.
I guess so. Maybe he's just one of the guys that will definitely go out on loan. And then if you're going to be out on loan anyway, why go on pre-season? And maybe Martin will stay with the youth teams, for the year. So maybe that's why they took him, I guess. Could be a
why? Why would he sign that contract extension? He wanted to leave. He was one of those that was thinking about, I'm going to go. And then suddenly he's staying, Well,
you're not going to get the option this season, let's be honest. Like, whether Frank Lampard is in charge, Conte, Sarri, doesn't matter. He was never going to get his chance this season.
No, but they will have to have given him some sort of reassurance for the future, whether that be just because it's Frank Lampard. I can't imagine that is the sole reason. So
yeah, I don't think it's just that. I think it would be quite foolish for him to sign it just because it's Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
I think there's got to be, like Jimmy said, there's got to be something in place for him, or even like Laurenz said, the same got to be something in place. But for him not being there, I think it's just something innocuous, and we might just be overthinking it personally.
Yeah.
One thing that I do want to mention I thought was really interesting is a tactical situation, because in the first it was a clear 4-2-3-1, and some people are a fan of it. I'm personally not so much, especially when Loftus-Cheek is back. Up until then, I don't really mind that much. But in the second half, that was a 4-3-3 on the ball, and that was a 4-3-3 with Lewis Baker as the regista. That was, and I'm not having anyone telling me any different. Off the ball,
Yeah.
Bakayoko dropped deep and made it kind of a 4-2-3-1. All right. But on the ball, Bakayoko moved up to Baker's right. And Billy Gilmore moved up on Baker's left. And Baker stayed deep and played the passes round. And if, Frank Lampard is going to, do a regista and start playing Jorginho there, actually, I'm like, fair play, Also, I can't wait for the Sarri haters how they're going to try to justify it. I'm really looking forward to it. I already had people like, Sarri's gone, move on. All right, well, I mean, Johan Cruyff is dead and still people plays football. Like, just because he's gone doesn't mean it's irrelevant now, all right?
You used the same example yesterday on your stream.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
recycling. You're recycling jokes here. Oh,
I think yesterday we done like a hybrid sort of thing in the second half. We went between a 4-3-3 and a 4-1-4-1 yesterday, I felt, in the second half. And like Lauren said, I think 4-2-3-1 at the moment for us doesn't suit us because we haven't got the sort of midfield players in that midfield role. Besides possibly Pulisic or Willian that can play in number 10, where we can afford to have a 4-2-3-1, in my opinion. I think we're more, at the moment, in terms of the players we have at our disposal, I think we're more suited to a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
And
we just need a number 8 in our team, and a 4-2-3-1 does offer a number 8. And I think both Ruben and Mason Mount really need that position to really thrive.
Yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't be surprised if Mason Mount's above Ross Barkley now in the pecking order because of his experience with Derby. I'm not saying I don't personally think it will. I personally think Barkley should still be above him, but I like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he is because of his time with Lampard at Derby.
Especially as the season goes on, I guess.
Yeah.
Mate, that's true. Maybe as the season goes on, but I think people are overestimating the relationship between Lampard and Mount. It will certainly benefit him in the long term, but I think Ross Barkley is actually rated by Lampard. I can't imagine that he isn't because he's at England's number 8 as well.
And you want to rate Ross Barkley?
I think that's very unfair because I also have loads of issues with Barkley, Laurenz, but he had some great season. He had that one really, really great season in the past for Everton, and he has shown what he can be capable of. It's just consistency issues. If he would play the way he did last season in October, for example, all the time, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We'd say, yeah, he's fine at number 10. He can't do it consistently, and it's his head issues.
That 1 month in October, he was electric. He was flawless. But
he probably also doesn't understand how he did that, quite frankly, because I've never seen Ross Barkley play like that, and I've never seen him play like that since. Like that month, he was quick. He was quick with his passing. He was quick with his movement. He knew what he was doing. He knew when to go where. He was, I'm not going to say perfect, but he was just very good. And he couldn't replicate that even for just minutes. Like, it's not even a case of, all right, he had a few good minutes here and there after that. I'm not saying like
he did
wasn't
for England.
good.
He did for England.
Yeah, but that is irrelevant to me. I'm a Chelsea fan, not an England fan.
Well,
don't care what he does for England.
And I think, but that's a good point, though, because I think that's the issue with Barkley is that everyone thinks that because how Barkley performed for England in those 2 international matches during the season, that's where the skepticism comes because they're like, well, why can't he do it for Chelsea then? And I think that's the issue with Barkley, in my opinion, is that he can show that he can do it on an international level, but it's true what Sarri said when they were talking about why can't he do it for Chelsea. And I remember not exactly saying it, but he said, let's be honest, Serbia and Montenegro is not a Premier League team, level sort of team. So that's the issue. It's like, it's hard.
Wait, mate. Serbia would be a Premier League team. Montenegro wouldn't. Serbia and Montenegro, they're two different.
I still, I mean Montenegro. I'm still saying Serbia and Montenegro.
Yeah, you have to make a difference there because Serbia has Luka Jovic, has Milinkovic Savic. Come on, they have some really good players.
No, because what it was is I said Serbia and Montenegro. I still had in my head that they're still together. I meant Montenegro. Yeah, I meant Montenegro.
Just had to correct you there, T. So
no, that's complete. I'm glad you did.
Who was the other team they played? Montenegro and
Czech Republic.
They're not too bad.
But Czech Republic are not the Czech Republic of old when they had like
Czech
good
Republic. It's
players.
been quite a while since they had like Nedved and them lot and Vescoli.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
he has done it consistently for a whole season, which was actually our worst one in decades. Which the 2015-16 season, he scored 15 goals, like had also 11 assists. He was electric there as well. He was very, very good.
His best ever season was 8 goals, 8 assists in the league.
All right, I'm going to have a look at that. This because I can remember writing it for my article.
I know that for a fact. His best ever season was 8 goals, 8 assists in the league. Anyway, it might be in all competitions. It might be the numbers you said.
We'll see in a second. Yep.
I'm just gonna keep talking, and you're just gonna.
Yes, you do that, mate. You do that.
Because I wanted to know, Terry, what you thought of Bakayoko, because obviously it is a very much so spoken about. I don't know, position and just personality within the squad, because he had a decent enough loan spell at AC Milan. Didn't start off great, but as the season went on, he did well, played a lot, and did all right. Even though he had a little spat with Gennaro Gattuso, and to come out of it just spat with Gennaro Gattuso and still keep playing, fair play. So I don't think you should judge him on yesterday, because he was like, I don't know, like he had a few bad passes, had a few decent passes. He had a decent shot that the keeper did all right to save. Bohemians shouldn't be the game that we judge TIemoue Bakayoko.
Yeah, for me personally, I will give him the whole pre-season before I really do go whether he should stay or go. I think before he even come back, I thought it would have been best for him to just move on personally. But he's here now, so I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him a chance over pre-season. Yeah. My issue with Bakayoko is it's not the fact that whether he's good enough. It's the fact that we've got quite a few midfielders that are capable of doing what we need in the midfield, in my opinion. Whether you play a 2 in the midfield or a 3 in the midfield, I remember because I'm writing an article for the Chelsea Echo. We're talking about how we're having to cut down certain players because at this moment in time we've got approximately 40 players that could potentially be in the first team squad. So we need to cut down. And looking at it there, at this moment in time we have 12 central midfielders on the books. So it's a case of Chelsea used 6 central midfielders last season, at most, throughout the whole season. And I think at a push, an absolute push, we could have as many as 8, but that is it. So
you can have 8 because Loftus-Cheek is currently still injured.
Yeah,
but that's why you kind of need an extra, because up until then you still need the numbers. I mean, I pretty much agree with what you said. The only thing that I don't think we have what he is I feel like, I know he's not the greatest defender, like defensive midfielder as, defending, but I still think with his physique and, he can still learn and become better at that. And to see a game out for the last 10, 15 minutes when you're 1 goal up, I don't think we have anyone like him that's just physically strong and is just going to bulldoze. I don't think we have anyone.
Yeah, he's definitely the only one in the current squad that is got his sort of physique and strength who plays in the midfield. That's definitely.
That's why I wouldn't mind keeping him.
Yeah, because Conte does pretty much the sort of stuff that Bakayoko does, but Conte is not the same sort of defence-minded midfielder. So, yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. So, like I said, I'm prepared to give Bakayoko the entire pre-season and see how it goes, because I think he will play. I think he will be involved in pretty much every pre-season game, because someone like him, he needs to be playing. He can't just be back at Cobham and not be involved in the long game, in the pre-season game. So I think he will be around, and it's just a case of for Lampard to find what sort of midfielder he will work with, what sort of midfield option he will be suited to. So, like I said, I'm willing to give Bakayoko the benefit of that, but I'm just still not sold on him personally. But
I don't think anyone can be sold on him, quite frankly.
Yeah.
At this point, but yeah.
Depends. If he plays like he did at Monaco, then I wouldn't have a problem with that. But the problem is replicating it. That's always difficult. But
typical Chelsea. Of all the players that Monaco have sold in the last couple of years, we got possibly the worst one. But I'll leave it there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Sidibé hasn't been too good since everyone left.
Well, where's he gone?
No way, still in Monaco. Everyone went. elsewhere, and he has been pretty shocking, partially what I've seen from him. And, he was linked to Chelsea back then as well, so we could have been done even worse, I guess. And, Thomas Lemar hasn't been that good either. So.
Lemar was a huge flop last season.
Yeah.
A huge flop.
He didn't play much at Atletico, did he?
Well, he should have.
He pretty much got dropped like within the first month. He just was like, Simeone was like, no thanks. He went back to playing. He went back to playing 4 central midfielders in a 4-4-2 basically.
Yeah,
it's just crazy money that they spent for him and not to play him. Same with Joao Felix, but that's a different topic. I mean, is looking at how we're doing time wise.
10 minutes to go.
Yeah, so I think one thing that would still be interesting to talk about is
No. Let us know about Barkley, because I want to know if I complete.
Oh yeah, sure. No, you're right. His whole season was 12 goals and 11 assists. That's why I still had in my head. But in the league, he scored 8 goals and 8 assists. So yes, but generally speaking, so kind of he can do. But Barkley's a very difficult topic among the fan base because either you like him or you don't. I think he's a nice chap and he can do parts. I wouldn't sell him. Next summer we can have a look, but I wouldn't sell him. Definitely not.
I'm prepared to give Barkley another season just because of the fact that his first season was pretty much ravaged with injury. Well, his first 6 months was ravaged with injury, and obviously his first full season he was pretty much in and out of the team because obviously
he had good times and he had bad times.
He had the old meme of Kovacic and Barkley. We'll leave it for another time, but I'm prepared to give Barkley another season. But if Barkley can't perform any sort of decent level this season, then it will be the best for him then to go.
I think it's definitely a make or break season for a few of those midfielders because depending on who stays, you're not going to have a better coach or first team coach than Frank Lampard, who can actually further you and develop you as a midfielder, as these current crop of players have. So it'll be really interesting, especially in that midfield, to see how they develop. Can Barkley bring consistency in his game? Can he make these runs into the box? Kovacic only said today or yesterday, whenever it was, in an interview recently, he wants to learn from Lampard to score more. He will be able to tell them go in, and I think we will be seeing more long shot efforts this season because Lampard will be more intent on doing that. So but TIemoue Bakayoko, I'm pretty much on board with Terry there, so I'll refrain from going into detail there.
I've always felt with the midfielders ever since Lampard left such a huge mark on Chelsea. He's become almost an anomaly at Chelsea in terms of every midfielder now is going to be compared to him in terms of can he score, can he do this, can he do that. And I'm writing something similar about that in terms of Kovacic and Jorginho being constantly scrutinised for their lack of goals and assists and Lampard being an anomaly of things. So it's true what you said. He is the perfect coach, the perfect man to seek the guidance and the development from. I'm just hoping that from now on, not every single midfielder is going to be judged on goals and assists because one, it's not always going to be a case of where we need a midfielder to score goals because that's obviously at the end of the day down to the forward line. There's plenty of teams that around Europe in recent memory that's not needed midfielders to score goal from. And like I said, the likes of Frank Lampard and also, for example, Steven Gerrard at Liverpool, they are two very, very, very rare midfielders that could have done what they could have done. And I just hope that midfielders going forward now at Chelsea are not always constantly compared and scrutinised to Lampard for their own sake.
Definitely. And do make sure to check out Terry's article once it is live on the Chelsea Echo. Last topic for today. We're going to keep this really short. So just give me names, no reasons. Just give me names in regard to who will not stay with this group for Japan.
So we're talking about the group that's together now, you mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, they're like these ones like Goey or Madsen that will probably not stay. But like other names which come to mind, just give me 1 or 2 names where you say, I don't think they'll be coming with us to Japan. if you want to give a reason, one sentence, we'll do that for time
What do you mean?
reasons.
Of the ones that aren't obvious?
Yeah.
Well, don't we think that all the obvious ones will just go?
Well, no, it'll be interesting. I'm asking you now. I mean, there are a few. Let's just have Terry answer, and then I'll give you my take, and then you can.
All right.
You'll see.
There's obvious ones, for example, like Baker, Palmer, Piazzon, them sort of things. They're pretty obvious. There's no really that. The ones where you think you don't know and you're not sure about them staying. I'll be very surprised if Danny Drinkwater actually goes. Personally, I don't think we need Danny Drinkwater at Chelsea. We have enough midfielders at Chelsea. Nothing against him personally. I've got no issue with him, but we have enough midfielders at Chelsea that can do what Drinkwater does, and they are better at doing it than Drinkwater.
And they
It's like you said.
every week.
I mean, you said at the start of the program, Danny Drinkwater's last involvement in the Chelsea shirt was pretty much a year ago in a pre-season friendly against Lyon at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
He's basically played 2 45-minute spells in an entire year. Yeah. Granted, that's to do with Sarri excluding because he felt that he wasn't best for his team. And like I said earlier in the programme, that Lampard's almost forced to have played him because obviously we mentioned the clean slate stance and everything. Yeah. But I can't see Danny Drinkwater still being at Chelsea once the window shuts in August, personally.
Yeah. So my name would be Kennedy. I don't know if he'll still be here. Be interesting to see. Don't know if he will. I don't think he was that good yesterday. Would be one of those. So that's basically what I was talking about, Laurenz. You got a name?
Well, I agree on Kennedy. I would have seen him as an obvious one. That's why. Well, now that you've taken the more obvious ones out of my mouth, I guess, making it even more difficult for me here. I'm gonna go with. Well, I just have to agree with you two. There's no other options. Where I'm like, okay, apart from
I'll give you another one. I don't think he will stay at Chelsea this season, but I think it'll be for a completely different reason. I think Tomori will not stay at Chelsea this season.
Good point, yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree. I forgot about it.
I think Mason Mount will stay, but I don't think Tomori will stay just solely because of the fact that we've got what feels like 1 million centre backs at Chelsea. So there's another name. It's not an obvious name, but at the same time, it's also a name where you think he could stay, but he won't. So
fair. Yeah. Okay. Laurenz.
Yes.
I think our time's up, unfortunately.
I think so too. I think our time is up. So, guys, everybody that has been listening so far, if you've made it this far here, pretty much an hour, thank you. We really do appreciate it. Wherever you are listening or watching, if it is YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, whatever it may be, please subscribe. All of those 3 platforms. I'm not sure whether you can actually subscribe on Spotify, but just find a way in it. Just try.
Do it anyway.
Exactly.
Just bookmark.
Just bookmark all the good things. Drop a like on YouTube. Leave us your comments down in the comment section below. Like I say, why not? Just leave us your thoughts on everything we discussed. But you don't have to, leave a full essay. Just leave your thoughts. And on iTunes, of course, leave us a good rating. That would be greatly appreciated. The better the rating there, the better it is for us, really. Of course, also check out Terry, his social media in the description below. Check out myself and Jimmy. And of course the channel's Twitter account, again, also down in the description below. And Terry, yourself, you just want to say goodbye and basically plug yourself really quickly before we run out of time, basically.
Just want to say thank you once again for having me on, Jim. Much appreciated, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you for the first time in person, Laurenz. So it's nice to speak to you, my friend. I know we've spoken on social media, but it's been good to speak to you directly. So much appreciated from both of you guys. I'll quickly just mention you can find me on Twitter at the handle of Sazio1984, but I'm more commonly known on Twitter as Forever Blue. I talk about Chelsea, I talk about football. I'm very honest, I'm very opinionated, but I do it in a nice way. I do it in a very polite and professional way. I'm more than happy to talk about Chelsea and football 24/7. And like Jimmy said at the start, I am the senior writer and senior podcaster for the Chelsea Echo, so you can find me there as well.
Perfect. That was perfect. Again, thank you for coming on. It was a good chat. And yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. Very much appreciate it. Up to Chelsea and keep the blue flag flying high.